All right, everyone, how are we getting on? Wednesday morning briefing from the Celtic Way. We're a little bit late today getting started, so thanks for bearing with us. Technical difficulties. I put my hand up. It's not actually my fault. The platform that we're using. I shouldn't probably badmouth just in case they cut us completely and we end up just not being able to speak at all. Some issues there. So I'm on a different webcam, different microphone, so I might sound and look a bit different. But these two look as good as always and sound as good as always. Guys, how are you both?
I'm fine. I console myself with the fact that my father once said they don't make mirrors the way they used to Hamish, so I can't change my opinion about this big fizzog that appears every day. So yeah, but feeling all right, feeling good. 3 sleeps, Hamish.
Yeah, me
Three.
too.
I've been on the countdown, haven't I? 3 sleeps. Can't beat it.
Joe?
Aye, brand new. Very much the same. Very much the same. It's been nice to have Luke McCowan in on Monday, Arne Engels yesterday. It's somehow only Wednesday, but that means it's only a few days away from getting back to the real thing. So yeah, excited.
Arne Engels was impressive, wasn't he? Watching his stuff. 20 years old? Comes across very well. As I say, I think he struck the right chord in the way he spoke and was keen to make sure that people knew he wanted to be at Celtic and he wasn't looking at his next move or anything like that. So very excited.
He took it all in his stride, didn't he? You sometimes you feel guys that young might get a bit phased by it all. Just sitting in front of it. Even the question about the 11 million tag. You're the Celtic's biggest
Yeah.
expensive ever signing. He's just like, I'm here to play football. That pressure on you, nah. It's just like I was loving that. I just think, great. If you're as good on the football park as you are laid back and dealing with that kind of media relations side of it, you're in for a treat. But as I said before, we saw him against Rangers and he looked the part, didn't do too much, but you saw instantly there's a footballer there and you think, wow, this guy could be something special. And I like that. And now he says he's going to, he'll live up to that. He'll do it. He's always had belief in himself and he wanted to come here and everybody told him it was a good step for him in his career. So you say him, he said all the right things, didn't he? And he gave you confidence that, he gave you confidence in the fact that he's confident in himself, that he can play. So go out and play. Just go and do what that earned you the move to Celtic.
Great English as well. I guess you would maybe take that as a given. Most Belgians do, but yeah, like even some of the thicker accent. I watched the fan media press conference, even some of the maybe thicker accents in various fan media. People, he dealt with those questions absolutely fine, Joe. So, no, very impressed.
Yeah, mature head. It was his birthday the other day, wasn't it? Is that I'm 21 now? Is that I'm just turned 20? Getting mixed up.
Yes, okay.
Something. Yeah.
21, I think.
But even still, yeah, he's remarkably mature for his age, confident. I was just thinking about like the interviews that we've had in the last few weeks at Celtic. You've had kind of all angles of player at the moment. You've had Adam Idah and Paulo Bernardo coming back in. Kasper Schmeichel is a veteran, but experienced in Celtic for the first time. Vi is a loanee, wanting to prove himself, unsure of exactly how much opportunity he'll get. James Forrest after 500 appearances, just after the game on Sunday. And then this week with two new faces, one who is a dream come true, a little bit further into his career, but looking at it from a very different perspective. And then Arne Engels just, here to play football, here to live up to the billing that he's got so far. So it's like a real broad spectrum of perspectives of the players coming in, which is always going to be the case, but it's in terms of what we have coming up now, this big game against Hearts on Saturday, and then obviously the Champions League campaign start. And it's great to have all these perspectives and really soak them up as critics on the media side and also supporters looking forward to them making their mark.
Because we'll judge these guys on what they do on the pitch, Tony. But it does strike me, having sat through and watched a lot of these press conferences, like they all have a bit about them. You go through all of the players we've signed, Idah, who maybe doesn't give away a hell of a lot in front of the media, but clearly, thinks about things and certainly does his talking on the pitch. And you've got guys like Kasper Schmeichel, who is just, a huge personality. Alex Valle, who, English really isn't his first language, but he's really trying. That's the thing that came across in his press conference. And Arne Engels, as we've spoken about, just real kind of old head on young shoulders. You can tell already. Paulo Bernardo, kind of similar. Austin Trusty, we've not heard from him, have we? But he, from what I hear, is a very good talker as well in the media, and obviously Luke McCowan as well.
Yeah, it feeds into the manager saying, don't just sign good players, they sign good people. You can fully understand that now as you get to meet these guys when they speak. And I guess every manager will say, the player's a good person, but those guys that have come in, they just seem to have fitted into the dressing room straight away, the culture, they understand the environment, they have that conversation. Remember, it was the why did you come here? It was the famed Ange Postecoglou phone call that made guys come. I think it's a similar thing with Brendan Rodgers. It's the Brendan Rodgers conversation, talking about the culture of winning, the environment that they're going to be, coming into. And even Arne Engels mentioned it yesterday as well. I want to play with that pressure of it.
You mentioned it 3 or 4 times.
I want to play with that pressure. And so that's clearly something that Brendan Rodgers is stressing to these guys. This is unlike any football environment you've played in before, and maybe after, if you ever leave here, you're under pressure to win. Every drop point's a crisis. It's people being top of you, and certain players can thrive in that. They like that. Other players will and can go under. But everybody who's spoken so far, their understanding of that and that assimilation. I mean, I think Arne Engels said it'll be easy to assimilate into this group. He said that at one point, and I thought, you're just here. I just thought that's a great thing to say. He's just what he said, because I've trained once, I played against Rangers, trained again, met everybody. Cool, I'm happy. This is the place I need to be and I want to be, and I'm going to prove and I'm going to show you I just want to show you now what I can do. I'm here to play football. Don't annoy me with the 11 million stuff, because I don't care. I'm here to do something. And that I think all the players that come in like that culture, and they like the environment, they like the manager, they like the captain, and they like their teammates, and it feeds into that. You trust the manager when he says he brings in good people, because you look at these guys and you think, right, you do look like someone who's going to slot in here and fit in, and another piece of the jigsaw. So that's why you're confident, you're excited moving forward about what this team can produce as a collective.
I mean, it seems from the outside like a very together group. Like it genuinely, and it seemed, to be fair, it seemed like that for a number of years now. But at the moment, even though there's players from all over the world, all walks of life type thing, you can imagine Arne Engels and you can believe him when he says, I come in. And I think he said it was in the build up to the derby, basically sat down and chilled with his teammates and all of that stuff. And that was the first time he'd actually sat and got to know them. But you get the impression that it would be quite an easy environment to come into. You don't get the feeling there's like any bad eggs there. And listen, we've had players in the past that we've loved, but there's always maybe been a feeling that you maybe wouldn't want to go out for a pint with them, for example. But you feel like with the majority of these Celtic players, I don't know if they all drink, but you feel like you would, because they genuinely seem like a good group of people, and it must be great for guys like Engels coming into that, Joe.
Yeah, 100%. And I think he was asked about, I think it was in the written press, he was asked about the Robbie Williams song, the I'm loving Engels instead or whatever, and he joked about it, said he loved it. Again, whether or not he hates it or loves it, the right response is that he loves it. It gets people on side, he gets a bit of a laugh. And then he was asked about, in terms of hypothetical initiations into the squad, would he get up and sing it in front of his teammates? Obviously all tongue-in-cheek, but he took it really well. Like you said, Tony, taking everything in his stride. He said something like, I hope not. But he says something along the lines of, I'm paraphrasing, but he he feels like he could do that with this group. And it's kind of tapping into what you're saying. He's only just in the door and he feels like he can have a laugh with them. He said he's only got talking to them in snatches. I think he's only trained twice, which would be Monday and Tuesday, obviously. And yeah, he's not really had that because he's been away at Nationals. He's not really had that time to bond with them properly, but already feels like he could. And I mean, when things weren't going as well as possible or as well as we'd hoped last year, Callum McGregor was talking about maintaining the message at Celtic. We must win every single game, and he said it not long ago about when you lose, it's a crisis, and then you win a game, and then you lose a game, or you draw a game, it's a crisis again. But he said, they came through that last year. They say come through it. You finished the season 8 points in front, and also get a domestic traditional league and cup double. Coming through it doesn't seem like the right way to describe it, does it? But there was moments where it was a bit touch and go. But McGregor's spoken loads about that togetherness, that unity, and how that got them through, and how now they're all, really feeling the confidence, and that must be exuded from everybody. I can only imagine that Lennoxtown behind the scenes is a really good place, because we can feel it on this side every time we speak to someone and they present, as you say, all the different kind of people we've spoken to over the last several weeks, or heard from in the last several weeks, and they all feel like they're feeling the love, whether that's James Forrest that's been there for 500 appearances, or it's Luke McCowan, or it's Arne Engels. So, yeah, I mean, who knows? It's almost like the pessimist in me doesn't want to overextend and say, come December, we could have the League Cup in the bag and a really successful Champions League run. Maybe I just can't quite allow myself to think like that. But at this point, whether or not the prediction ages well, everything is going well. Great pre-season, great start to the domestic campaign, League Cup win as well in there, Champions League, with players who want to be here, who could prove themselves on the big stage. Bring it on, I hope.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's massively exciting. Like, I'm so excited. I don't know if you guys saw Nicholas Kuhn scoring a worldie in training yesterday as well, and stuff like that just gets you further excited, and you can't wait to see the team back in action. But I'm really, I get the impression from Engels that he's just a really driven young guy who wants to get to the top of the game, and has a plan to get there, and he's replacing Matt O'Reilly, and I think he seems quite similar to Matt O'Reilly. Not totally, not the exact same, but the way he comes across.
And I don't think he cares that people are saying, the pressure, you're a Matt O'Reilly pressure, we've spent all this money on you. Give me the ball. I'll show you what I'm about. Just leave it to me. I love that attitude. It's just like, it's white noise. Just blank it out. You're here for a reason, because I think he said the manager saw him a lot and he wanted him. And the manager did make a big point of getting him. So he's here now, and he's here to take the right steps in his career. He said that even the Belgian players, when he was in the national team, told him that it was a big club that he was at, and he could. It was a massive step for him, and the right step for him at this juncture of his career. I'm going to do what I did with Matt O'Reilly and enjoy this guy, and see what he can produce. And I'm thinking no further ahead than the Hearts game. It's a huge week in Celtic season, but I'm a one game at a time kind of guy, and I know it is an old cliche, but can't be looking too far ahead. But we've got the Champions League coming up over the hill. We'll spend plenty of time talking about that. But Hearts on Saturday, and I think there's a mood there. I'd love to see Celtic go out and get that. But you were saying, Hamish, the other day, that full 90-minute performance and pulverise Hearts. Really, really sock it to them from the get-go. Whether you start with some of your new players or you go with the status quo, just now the guys, as I say, the yellow jersey, and then integrate them and bring them on, because he will have the Champions League in mind as well. But focus on Hearts. We need 3 points. Titles are won, not just at the end of the season, but winning these games too. People forget that it's 38-game campaign. So, the title winning matches and all the excitement at the end of the season is great, but your momentum is built here. And Celtic have had a wonderful start to the season. We want that 100% winning ratio to continue, so you can take that into the Champions League and hopefully, as we've spoken about, get that campaign off to a flyer. But Hearts for me is a big one for Celtic in terms of, I just think the music and the vibe surrounding it's going to be so good, and the fans will get. Everyone's buying into it now, aren't they? We're all in the same place, aren't we? And on the same page, and we all want what's best for Celtic.
Yeah, I take your point totally. You know, we're looking at Hearts, but I think also we've been waiting for this Champions League stuff
Yeah,
for so long. It seemed like the longest wait to finally get into this new format. And I think on Saturday it kind of starts in a way because that'll be Celtic back, and there's going to be a buzz around Celtic Park, even though obviously Saturday's a Premiership game. There's going to be a buzz about the place because everyone knows that's us getting into this chunk of fixtures where we're going to have the Champions League to come and we can finally see these new players. So yeah, I agree with you guys. I just can't wait to get through the next few days and into Saturday. A bit of chat about Adam Idah. A few people maybe a little bit concerned about Adam Idah. People saying maybe he's got injury issues. I think he played for Ireland last night briefly. I'm just going off some comments. I've not actually seen what the script was there. I think there's always going to be a little bit of chat about Adam Idah given that he was so expensive. But I honestly think, I mean, he barely played for us since we bought him, and I think he's looked decent enough. So I've got absolutely no fears at all about Adam Idah. But this may just be something we need to keep an eye on, Joe, because it seems like some people do kind of maybe just wonder a wee bit.
Yeah, I think if he'd managed to get himself a goal by now, I think it would have settled a lot of nerves. And the longer he goes without, I'm sure that is playing in his mind to an extent. What I've been trying to do whenever I've noticed some of the kind of speculation or concern, which is mostly levied on social media, is think about imagine this was Adam Idah in February or March. Would the form that he's shown, coming off the bench in the 3 games, whatever I've seen him in so far, have been a concern in March? And I don't think it would be. I still think he's contributing. I still think that he is unsettling backline. He's given that strength. He's given a different kind of striker in comparison to Kyogo, the same way he was doing last year. It's just that he's had a couple of maybe half chances to score and hasn't taken them yet, which seems to be kind of upsetting the rhythm of some fans, I would say. Obviously, perfect entitled to the opinion if that's how they see it. I think I don't see it that way. And I think, despite the fact that it's great that Celtic are going out and spending that money, it feels unprecedented. I mean, surely Arne Engels is in terms of being the big signing, but to also have an 8.5 in there as well is just something that Celtic don't do. So it's maybe kind of not fabricated in people's minds. That sounds condescending, but I think once he gets his goal, I think it should settle the nerves. And listen, if he's fit and he gets a chance to do that on Saturday, what a way to do that. I think, Hearts have obviously had quite a ropey start to the season, especially in comparison to last year. But just kind of tapping into what you were saying, Hamish, like that 3-0 game against Hearts at Celtic Park right before the last push last year, it felt like the kind of stage setter for that last drive of excitement. And I think you're right. I think that this could be, if Celtic play anywhere near that level against Hearts again on Saturday, it could be the kind of stage setter for everything that's to come. And listen, I would love that, another 3-4-0. Equally, you've got Hearts who've maybe not started brilliantly, who are always capable of giving Celtic a game. And we saw last season also at Celtic Park. I don't think it'll be a walk in the park, but it could be one of those games that could go either way. It could be tight, or you could see a real steamroll on Celtic. And I know which one we'd prefer.
That was a game where the DVD clip came from, wasn't it? Paradise is for us. It was the Hearts game. That's
yes. Yeah.
Was it? It was. Yeah.
So again, feeding into all of that, it's got that feel about it, isn't it? And that became a clipped up meme and all that and stuff like that. But that's Adam Idah doesn't concern me in the slightest. Because I don't think there's a lack of form there. I think, like Hamish, you said there as well, I think he's done all right. Just needs a goal. But also, I said for a long time, Brendan Rodgers is a horses for courses manager. At this minute in time, Kyogo's the horse that he's picked up front, and you can't dispute that because his contribution, non-scoring in the 2 games prior to the Rangers game, was outstanding. So he was getting involved and he was linking up play and he was setting up goals. So you can't dispute that. Goes into the Rangers game, and if you're a betting man like I was, you knew well Kyogo was going to score against Rangers. He's produced a spectacular finish, so Adam Idah will be eased back into this setup because, you know, he wants 2 number 9s. You know, he's number 1s, as he said, number 9s for that jersey. But Adam Idah, time will come this season. He will lead the line and he will score. I've no qualms about that at all. And I think lots of people are reading too much into it, and you know, haven't. And it's their opinion. It's fine. They're allowed that, but I don't think you can diss the guy who was a big, vital part of your Scottish Premiership and Scottish Cup winning season last season. He hasn't lost it overnight. He will come good, and it's like everything else. He rode the crest of a wave last season. Everything he touched seemed to go in, didn't it? More or less. This season, it's the harsh reality of what we were talking about. It's that pressure to win every game. You can't miss chances, Joe. I mean, it's an unforgiving environment. You've had a couple of chances presented to you and you've not taken them. That's fine. That's why we've got another number 9 there. You know, so these things, but he will have a run in the team and he will go on a consecutive run of scoring for him. I have no doubt about that. So I've no qualms about him. He was brought in for a reason. The manager brought him in for a reason, and he will play a lot of games. So and get a lot of game time.
I'm not quite sure why there is like this kind of this feeling towards Idah that he's kind of underperforming already. I mean, the guy's literally come back and played a couple of appearances, probably played about an hour, and I thought against St Mirren his movement was terrific. He just didn't really, you know, it didn't quite come off for him. To be honest, I can't even remember him against Rangers because there was that much else going on. I didn't think he made a particularly huge impact, good or bad. But I just think, like, you remember when there was a saga about signing him going on, and some people were looking, going, he's rubbish anyway, we don't need him. And the end of last season, thing again I struggle with a little bit. People look at that game at Rugby Park and they say, you know, that was the game. And it's like, Idah was brilliant before then. Some of the big goals he scored, Ibrox, and he got us the wins at Motherwell and Hibs, and some of his other performances were great. And I don't know, it just seems to me that there's maybe a little bit of unfair kind of criticism that he gets. I think he's a great player, and I think he's going to prove to be a terrific player for us.
I think at Rugby Park that night he upped at a level. I think everybody.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You know, so and that was the game, but I think fully convinced the manager because he was unplayable that night on plastic, which is a surface that Celtic have traditionally struggled on, and he was great. So, you know, anybody who doesn't think there's a player there in Adam Idah, then I can't help them. If that's fine, they're entitled to their opinion. I wholeheartedly disagree with that. If people think that Adam Idah's not what Celtic want, again, they're entitled to that opinion, and I wholeheartedly disagree with that. He will prove his worth. I have no qualms about that, and nothing that he's done since he come back suggests to me that he won't fit into this team and won't play, you know, his amount of minutes that the manager allows him. So, and he won't score for this team. So, I have every confidence in him moving forward. Sorry, Joe, I thought you were going to say something.
Not at all. No. I mean, I was just going to. I think we're all in agreement. He's not a flair player. He's not a player that. He's one of those kind of strikers that if perhaps, just to play devil's advocate, if he's not scoring, it might seem like he's not contributing as much as a Kyogo or as someone who, you know, is breaking defences open for his colleagues and all that kind of stuff in the running that Kyogo does. But Celtic have always had strikers like this. I mean, different in stature and nature, but, you know, Gary Hooper, if he wasn't scoring in a game, could look quiet and then pop up with a hat-trick the following week, or going back further. John Hartson was sometimes, you know, maybe not take every single chance that came his way, but nobody would say that he wasn't a good striker, and it just feels like Idah needs that goal. That's as simple as that for me. I think he'll get the goal. He'll probably take the pressure off himself. He'll maybe score another couple, whether that's on the big stage or it's against Falkirk or whenever, and it'll just go back to the kind of form that we saw in January. I think that handling the pressure, wanting to be here, knowing his place in the team in the sense of not always being first choice and being able to offer something different, he ticks all those boxes. And I think that, I think it's premature to be critical of that. And I'm sure his biggest critic's himself. You know, that the game against St Mirren, that he had those half chances. I bet you he's looked over the tapes again and been like, yeah, maybe I could have did this differently. Maybe I'll do this differently next time. And I've every belief that he will.
Yeah, and there is instances of maybe players trying too hard, and I think Adam Idah's fallen into that. He's wanted to get off to a flyer, and the St Mirren ones in particular. I thought if he did what came natural to him, he'd probably have scored, but maybe it was in his head. I need to score. And players can try too hard. Sometimes you just need to relax a wee bit more. He's here. He's a permanent player. Just let it flow.
Yeah, I just wonder sometimes when things are going so well, we need to find something to be moaning about. And I genuinely on the pitch, I don't think there's anything to moan about right now on the pitch. I can't think of maybe if I think much harder, I can think of something. But right now, off the top of my head, I can't really think of a player or a position worth moaning about. I think things are great at the moment. Obviously, that's going to change when we move forward. Chilpil, who's judging from the comments, a big Idah fan, like us, I think, saying starting against Falkirk. I'm just wondering, does Idah start? And just throw it out there: does Idah start either of our next two games against Hearts or Slovan, or does Kyogo start both of them?
Waiting for each
Kyogo
other.
For me.
Kyogo for me.
Both of them.
Kyogo for me.
Yeah.
Both of them. Unless,
even in Europe, because the thinking is maybe Idah that physical presence might be good in Europe.
That's possibly what he's brought Idah back for. If he has a game plan and a structure for Europe, which he clearly will have, and Idah might formulate part of that plan. So, but if you're asking me just now, Kyogo starts both. Because remember, Kyogo scored a wonderful goal against Atletico Madrid. Brilliantly constructed goal.
Yeah.
At that level. So it's not as if Kyogo can't do it. I'm not saying Adam Idah can't do it at that level either, but I'll at this moment in time, Kyogo certainly starts against Hearts. Again, It's a wonderful headache to have, isn't it, for the manager? Who are you going to play up front against Slovan Bratislava? Kyogo, Adam Idah. One who just a goal scoring machine and the other who you paid £8.5 million for. You see that Joe said it as well, that's unprecedented. So you leave those big calls to the manager, don't you? But if you're asking me at this minute in time, from a standing start on Wednesday, it's Kyogo for both games right now. What happens in between times, we shall see. But Kyogo certainly starts on Saturday.
I guess Kyogo's not had any international football. I just wonder with the two big games coming up, does Brendan Rodgers, play one of them one game? Does Idah possibly play this weekend? And then you have Kyogo, really fresh and ready to go. We'll wait and see. Joe, generally in terms of the whole team, Joe, do you name the same 11 for both of these upcoming games, or do you rest some players maybe just kind of change a few players for this Saturday? What do you think the manager will do?
With the question mark over Alistair Johnston, we're hoping that everything is fine there. He's the only one in terms of potential injuries coming out of the international break, certainly that I'm aware of. I think the same team for both games, and the reason I think that is kind of what we touched upon yesterday about the midweek games not having sunk in yet. This is where, from next week onwards, where the squad will start to have collective fatigue, if it's going to have it at all over the course. I also think that, again, like we said yesterday about the opposition next Wednesday, this is a game that Celtic need to attack and we have to assume will attack. The Bratislava coach has said on more than one occasion, he's been in the media saying, he thinks that Celtic Park is one of the best atmospheres in world football, that he thinks they're coming up against one of the best teams in the Champions League, whether or not this is mind games and all that kind of stuff. I think that they'll want to meet Celtic further up the pitch to try and combat those first 15 minutes where I assume that we'd be having a real go at it. And I think Kyogo, for me, is that kind of player to be playing on the last shoulder. And Tony mentioned that Atletico goal. That was one of the best European goals we've scored in recent memory. If only the game could have stopped after 15 minutes or whatever it was when Celtic played so well. But yeah, I think for me, it's the same team, unless something changes things in terms of injuries or the unexpected on Saturday. And then after that, Falkirk onwards. And with different opposition, with Dortmund and everyone else, where we might be playing a little bit more of a defensive setup, that's when things start to change. But as Tony said, what a brilliant headache to have. And that feels unprecedented for us going into Champions League, but we're not thinking that we're short or somebody's injured or, we're going to be in the back foot. To be attacking it on the front foot is a great position to be in.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I wonder if someone like Engels maybe doesn't start on Saturday, but then comes in for the Bratislava game. I'm just trying to think. We've got options there. It might make sense for Rodgers to have some fresh legs.
You spent 11 million quid on him. You know what I mean? So that's where the price tag comes in. He'll have a plan for the Champions League. I think you start with the same team that started against Rangers. You bring on the likes of Engels. You might even bring on Trusty as well. And you get to the Champions League, and I think you'll see a different Celtic team. There might be 2 or 3 changes in that Celtic team for the Champions League because you are trying to get your campaign off to the best start. But on Saturday, I think the team who's played so well this season has earned that right to start against Hearts and go and take it to Rabat. That's what I want to see. I want Celtic to absolutely, as I said earlier, pulverise and obliterate Hearts and go at them and do what they've done in a lot of the games, having it won in the first 20 minutes. But I don't want them to let up after that. I want them to keep going and keep going and keep going. And I want that as much as you can, get a full 90-minute performance from Celtic and marry, everything together. Because I think it's fair to say that somebody will get pulverised at some point. And I just think Saturday's right for it. Hearts are coming on the back of a horrendous start to the season, out with their opening game at Tynecastle against Rangers, and the manager's under pressure. It's no our concern. We don't care. It's all about what Celtic do, and I just want to see them attack this game with real gusto and send you into Wednesday night up there, and with every Celtic supporter on Saturday want to be saying, bring this on, let's get into this Champions League and feel confident that we can actually achieve and do something come Wednesday night at whatever time. We might feel completely different about it, but at this moment in time, you're quite excited about what's to come. A great week. It's a great week of football for Celtic, isn't it? 3 home games and different competitions. There'll be different teams probably for all of them, so it's great, that headache, because you play mind games with yourself and think who's going to play in each of these games, because it will be different, and that's a great thing.
If we win these 3 home games, imagine how good we're going to feel at the end of it. Back at Hampden in the semi-finals of the League Cup, Champions League campaign off to a winning start, and still 100% record in the league. Obviously, there'll be a hell of a lot of stuff still to happen, but I think it's going to be a big 8 days, isn't it? A big 8 days from this Saturday to the following Sunday. Three big games at Celtic Park. Can't wait for it. Anything else on your mind, guys?
No, I'm just pretty pleased that, again, I'd like to hear a little bit more, which I'm sure will be addressed in due course, about Alistair Johnson. Like we were saying the other day, I think everything is okay, but I would just like some definitive news from that, from his injury with Canada. But otherwise, yeah, it was funny when you say like it's 8 days. It doesn't, somehow it feels like it should be a lot longer. It's only 8 days, and yet, yeah, you could be coming out the other end either high as a kite or wondering why you let yourself get
subdued
about the Champions League and everything. Yeah. It's the
manager.
You speak a lot about optics. It feels good at this end, and I don't think as and I say as critics, but we're Celtic minded critics and as supporters as well. I don't think it's unreasonable to get excited, and I appreciate what you're saying, Tony, about thinking game to game, and that needs to be what the manager and the team do. But we're allowed to let ourselves ponder, what could be. And I think that if ever there was a time to do it, whether or not these statements age well or not is irrelevant. It feels good just now, and it's worth being optimistic. And despite our self-deprecation as Leicester Scotland Celtic supporters, it's still it's an unusual position to be in, and I don't know. Speak to me in 8 days.
I just need to keep myself on terra firma. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I could wax lyrical and go off my head about how excited I am about it, but I just try and say, right, okay, Hearts, just focus. But you're right, and I think the former manager said that as supporters are Celtic-minded people, you're allowed to let your mind drift, aren't you, about what things you see in it. But as Hamish said there, come out these next 3 games if you win, as the managers often won't, of saying, that's the plan. The plan will be to win every one of these 3 games. Yeah, that's in that 8-game stretch, and feel very good about yourself.
In terms of what we're talking about the unity just now, sorry to cut you off, Tony, but right. if we come through these three games and win, the faith in the manager, like we've spoken about before, being restored, that gets up to an extra notch. The faith in the team, the unity between the fans and the supporters, and embedding these new players. You imagine what it'll be like in 8 days' time if they've come through 3 victories, as you say, Hamish, a semi-final at the National Stadium, on course to get that trophy back, as the captain said in the summertime or whenever it was. A good start to the Champions League and continuing to do well in the league. That'll really bring those players into the fold as well. And I'm sure there are no doubts that they've made the right decision to move here, but it would certainly consolidate things, wouldn't
it? Yourself and myself, Hamish, you're really looking forward to the Champions League because that's where you want to do something, isn't it? That's where you want to make your impact and make your mark. And of those 3 games in 8 days, the middle one's the standout as in terms of imperative and importance. You cannot shy away from that. But as everybody will tell you, the next game's the most important one, i.e. Hearts. But there's a prestige and honour you want to restore at that level come next Wednesday night. And it's just so important to everybody who supports the club, the players and the manager, to get this campaign, this league phase off to a winning start. Not just a good start, a winning start. Because people say, we have to get a point. Nah, I want a winning start. And again, I've just said it there, the manager will be saying, that's the plan. Go and execute the plan.
That's the thing I've got in my mind. We're talking about how good things would be if we win our next 3 games. I'd be intrigued to ask you two and everyone else in the chat, and this isn't me sounding incredibly cocky, this is me getting excited about Celtic. Does anyone actually think that we won't win these 3 games? I feel quite confident in this Celtic team. I think it's time to get excited, properly excited about the team Brendan Rodgers is building. I repeat what I said after the derby. I think this is as good a team right now we're witnessing as we've seen at any time over the past decade. I genuinely believe that. We've had some really good teams, Invincible season and just second season in particular. But I honestly think this team right now that we're seeing and the potential it has is just as good as those teams. I think it's time to get excited about Celtic and, call it arrogance, call it cockiness, whatever. I think over the next 10 days, Celtic will win all 3 matches. I genuinely do, because I think this is a proper Celtic team. And from that point, we'll take it on and see what happens. And we'll end on that note. A lot of fiery chat today, guys, in the live chat. Fiery chat about what song for Arne Engels. Thanks, Joe, for bringing that up. Great move. And fiery chat about Idah. That was my fault for bringing that up, although there had been a few comments already. I don't know what you did, Tony. Must have done something bad.
Nah, I don't know. I was just here. I'm not having the Robbie Williams chat. I can't stand that song. So, I did make my feelings known about that pretty early doors, as they say in football parlance. But hey, it was inevitable that he was going to have that song around, wasn't he? I'd actually like to see if Arne Engels performed it in front of his teammates. If you're your Celtic teammates and you want them to, that kind of humiliation ritual that they do in dressing rooms, you would get them to sing it. You'd have to. And as I said the other day, I think Luke McCowan kind of nicknamed himself, didn't he? He's got to be known as the sponge. He just twice he referred to himself as being a sponge, and I thought, young man, you're not doing yourself any favours. That's your new nickname in the dressing room, the sponge. Take everything on board. But I like that about him as well, a bit of self-deprecation. We like a bit of that on this platform as well. So yeah, if Arne Engels was going to sing a song, then it has to be Angels by Robbie Williams, and then we drop it. That's it. It's stopped.
Yeah.
As for Adam Idah, I'm firmly in the Adam Idah will score goals for Celtic camp. There you go.
I thought you were going to give us a wee song there for Adam Idah. Disappointing. We can give you some time to work in that. Right, guys, appreciate your chat once again.
Right, okay, I'll make this deal. If Celtic do an invincible season, I'll give you a song on the platform. All right. Okay.
You're hoping for a bit more than a song just for Celtic doing an invincible season. Listen, that's a long way off. You certainly wouldn't catch me even mentioning that at this stage of the season. Right, okay, let's head. Thanks everyone for watching. We will do it all again this time tomorrow. Speak to you then.